Good morning everyone, and welcome to this morning's webinar on A360 collaboration for Revit. Just before we get started, could I ask for a show of hands just to make sure everyone can hear me, please? If you just put your hands up, excellent, so people can hear me, so broadcast working. I will be recording this presentation, so it will appear on our website and YouTube channels in due course. So morning everyone for joining us. So just to get us started, a little bit about me. My name is Simon Dickinson. I'm a BIM technical manager here at Graitec. I've got many years of experience using CAD and Revit. I've been using Revit pretty much since Autodesk purchased the product back in the early noughts, so about 2001, and I've been advocating BIM ever since. So a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation to start with, and then a little product demonstration will show you actually how the software actually works. Okay, so why consider collaboration anyway? So why would we even want to collaborate? So I suppose BIM, really, the whole concept of BIM is the fact that we are collaborating together and we're working together as a team. So, you know, if you look at the sort of the building process and what we're trying to do, we might have people that we were working with and stakeholders that might be across different time zones. They might be in different teams. So we might have structural engineers, architects, M&E guys, all working from different companies. We might be using disconnected communication silos. So, for instance, we might be sending emails. We might be sending PDFs. And this sort of thing is happening where design isn't. So we're not actually working as a designer from that point of view. We might have multiple teams working on multiple models, and each one's progressing differently, and we're not really seeing the changes. So we might find over the period of the week while we're not working together that we might be working in opposite directions. So it's quite important to understand how we're actually working and where the information is coming from. So how's our industry reacting? Yeah. So if you think about what we're actually doing is we start off with, we're actually finding that people are investing a lot more money in collaborative processes and how we can actually move out of these silos. And we're finding that if you are working together and you're linking all this data together, we're tending to find that there's less problems occurring. So if there's less problems occurring, hopefully we're going to find other benefits in the way that things work. Okay, so if we look at sort of what's happening, people are now investing in the infrastructure. So there's a lot of money being put into server-based solutions. So you may have come across Revit Server, which ships with Revit. There is an IT overhead in that where that information is actually being developed, but we are seeing a lot more people going down the route and looking at how we can collaborate more efficiently. How can we get this data in a common data environment? So anyone that's been looking at the BIM level 2 documents will recognize the term CDE, so the common data environment, keeping the data in one place and not duplicating that data. And we're finding that, you know, the more and more people are required to actually go down the BIM route, particularly in the UK now with the BIM level 2 mandate. We are finding that people are being pushed in that direction. So on certain projects, it's actually a requirement to actually work on them projects. So, you know, where's the return on investment? Why should we be sort of even looking at investing in these way of working? So, you know, if we look at sort of some of the advantages, you know, we've seen a 77% seeing faster access to knowledge. So having that single source of truth, being able to get to the information faster. We're looking at reduced communication costs because the information speaks for itself. So requests for informations, they're starting to go down. And just things like reduced travel costs, because if we can work digitally and we can utilize the internet, then we don't have to travel to see people face to face to actually communicate. And in the modern world, we always say that the world's got a lot smaller these days, and it's down to the fact that we're doing this idea of digital communication. And if all this works together, then we're going to see a more efficient workflow, and therefore we should actually see increase in profits as well. So why choose Autodesk A360 Collaboration for Revit? Okay, so this is the tool that we'll be looking at. It was available last year as a plugin that you could download and install into Revit 2016. It installs itself automatically now in 2017 when you install it. So it's one of the auto installs that will actually be in there. So even the way that we access standard normal internal work sharing has changed a little bit, but I'll come on to how that works in the past in a few minutes. So it allows project teams to collaborate on projects simultaneously. So it doesn't matter whether you are the architect, the structural engineer, we can start to work in a much more collaborative environment where we're seeing real-time changes. It doesn't mean to say we're all working directly on each other's models. We can still link in these models, but it does mean that we can find out when models have been updated, when the data has been changed, so that we can then do an update of our linked files, and we can pull them in as and when we need to work on that. Okay, it's got enhanced communication tools, so there's actually a messenger in there, so we can actually open up the messenger, and it's a little bit like MSN Messenger or the iMessenger on your iPhone, but it allows us to have live communication between the whole team. So as we're working away, all the team can start to talk to each other. And I always say that if BIM does nothing, it actually opens up communication routes as a default anyway. So there's a lot of features within here that just enhance that communication. And it connects the entire team. So we're not just, as I say, we're not just talking about the architects. Although primarily you may want to use A360 Collaboration to collaborate within your own organization across multiple sites. So it can work from just the same organization, but it can also work up to the project level. And that's one of the key, probably, aspects of the way that it works. So the system actually sits on the cloud. Yeah. So there's no overhead associated with IT setup because it's all based on the cloud. So you don't have to invest anything in bigger servers for the storage, etc. You're not looking at getting your internet and firewalls open to get that to work either. So it's all about multi-firm concurrent authoring, or as I say, it will work internal as well. But we have our models stored on the cloud, and then if you imagine firm A, B, C and D there, if you imagine them being just different offices, it would work there as well. So it just allows us to collaborate much more efficiently across wider areas, if you like. As I mentioned, there's very little, if no IT setup required whatsoever. So it is just working through the internet, and basically you don't have to worry about getting IT involved to configure lots of complicated firewall policies. We do have Revit Server, which ships free with Revit, which you can set up, but there's a lot of IT configuration involved in that. And it gives us direct access to other cloud services as well. So the structural analysis, energy analysis and rendering, all of which are obviously integral parts of the Revit software anyway. But it then also gives us direct links then to BIM 360 Glue, CFD, so the computer fluid dynamics, so we can start to work out airflow through systems, we can work out how a fire would spread through a system, then also to Buzzsaw for file storage and archiving, etc. I mentioned that we had enhanced communication, yeah. So we've got the idea of having this communicator built in. So the communicator will allow us to communicate between two people, so we can actually just talk between team member to team member. We can capture screenshots, so maybe you've noticed something in the structural model and you just want to quickly show that, or it's the M&E model. We can quickly take a screen capture and say, is this right? We found a bit of an issue here. How do we work on that? And we can also team chat as well. So if I've updated my model, I can very easily communicate them changes straight away as well. It also, as well as giving us the chat as well, it gives us this contextual awareness where when anything's happening within the project, so if we're synchronizing our data with the central model, so we're saving our changes, it's going to automatically be updating this all the time. And it's integrated actually into the Revit work sharing feed as well. Yeah, so we can actually see people, if you've been using work sharing, you might have set up the work sharing monitor, and basically the work sharing monitor within A360 Collaboration is in here, so we can see who's working on which model, etc. So very, very clever piece of kit now. So we can connect the entire team, but because the cloud service that it's using is A360, it means that it's not just about the people that are using Revit that we can actually work with as well. So we can actually start to share our design data, share drawing sheets, publish it, and we can decide as and when we want to do this, but we can then start to share this actually with other people that have got access to A360. So, you know, this could be simply as someone that's using an Internet Explorer to a web browser to log into the A360. You could have it on your Android device, your iOS device, it doesn't matter. It could be a mobile phone, it could be a tablet. But the fact is that these people can then start to actually access this data via their mobile devices as well, and then almost comment on these 2D drawings. So there's a lot of things that we can do to publish there. So it's a great little tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a little live demo to start with, and then I've got a little video to show you as well. Basically a team that are actually using it to collaborate as well. Okay, so if I just pop into Revit 2017, so here I have my Revit 2017. And if I go to the Collaborate tab at the top, you'll notice that I actually have some extra information here. You'll always know if it's running because what we've got here is we've got the A360 models. Okay. What I'm actually going to do, this is actually a file that I've already got linked to A360 Collaboration. I just want to start a new file. So currently, if I wanted to work in a work shared environment, we would probably be using work sharing either through Revit server, or we would be doing it locally. We'd publish our models to a file share once a week so that the other disciplines involved can actually get our model. So if I just start off and just have some form of a building in here. So all I'm going to do is I've got a wall. If I wanted then to now enable work sharing, historically we would click on this icon down here at the bottom. This would allow me access to work sharing. You'll notice it's greyed out. As soon as we install the collaboration tools here, it deletes this because this would only allow us to do local. If I actually go collaborate up here, this will now allow me, in fact, let's just save the model. So I'll just save that model and we'll just call it test for 360. Okay. Once that's saved, it will now give me the choice. Do I want to collaborate with inside my own network? So this is just standard work sharing, the same way that we're used to at the moment. Or I can actually use collaborate using A360. This is a subscription tool, so you do need to subscribe to it, and you do need to buy a subscription per user that's actually working on this system. But I can go collaborate with A360, click OK. It will now look to find any A360 projects that I've got available to me as a user. These A360 projects are not set up inside Revit. Basically, when you subscribe to A360 Collaboration for Revit, you automatically get a license of what we call A360 Team. So if I actually just go to my web browser, this is my A360 Team site. I can change which A360 Team account I'm working in. So it may be that you are the team lead, so you're using your team account. It may be that you've been invited to work on someone else's project, in which case they would have a license for you, and in here they would set their team up. So I could have multiple teams set up in here. In fact, if I was logged in as my other account, which is Simon.Dickinson at Graitec, then I've actually got some other teams. There's an Autodesk one which I'm part of as well. So we can set the teams up here, and then I can create new projects. So I could create a new project in here, so we can call this test for A360, and I can then give the project a description. We could upload an icon. Okay, so I'll just use the default, one of these default icons, and I can create a project. So once it's created this project, I can then now start to look at creating subfolders in here about where I want to store my data, so it can still be stored neatly. We can still move the files into the correct location. And what I can then also do is I can then start to invite other people to collaborate with. So I can start to send emails out to people to invite them to join this. So I could send an invite out. I'll invite one of my colleagues. So we'll invite Chris, and I can send Chris an invitation. So basically that's now been sent to Chris, and Chris could be anywhere in the world, but I've sent that in, as an email. So he will actually get an email notification to his email address that I've actually invited him to join this test for A360. And then if I just went to, I've got a virtual machine here, and on this virtual machine we've actually got, I just go into Internet Explorer and I just go to Autodesk A360 and we'll just search that. I can then go to the A360. We will just sign in. I can sign in now into here as Chris. There we go. So I can sign in as Chris, and then it'll take him to his hub. It might not be the correct project hub for this project. Yeah. So what I can then do is if I click on Chris, he is a team member of the address one. So the other thing we can do as well in here as well, before we've even created projects within the team, we can start to create members that are actually members of the entire hub. So you could have, it's a nice way of controlling projects. So you might have several projects, but you only have certain people working on them at one time. Even though your team hub might have 20 users, maybe only 5 of them are actually working on that particular project. So in here now, if I go up to here, as you can see, Simon has invited him to join that. So I can now accept, or Chris can accept, the invitation from me to join this new project, and it's added this in here. It tells him who it's owned by, and more importantly, if I go back to now my machine, in a second, I just need to refresh the page, and we should find that we've actually got 2. So there's now 2 people in there. So we've now got 2 members. So I can start to invite these people. Okay. So if I now just go back to Revit, I can choose the project. I'm actually going to set this project because that was already up. Let me just go back and let's go collaborate again. So we'll re-collaborate this in the cloud. Yeah, there's the test for A360, the one that I've just created. So I'm going to initiate this, and this will now set work sharing up. So it's not really any different to the way that I would actually work if I was, for instance, using work sharing locally. The only difference is all this work is now going to be happening on the cloud. So it's uploading this model into the cloud. So basically it's uploading the model. You'll notice that workset 1's enabled, so it's working exactly the same. And once this is uploaded, there will be very little difference to notice in the way that things work. There's a couple of extra options and a couple of extra features that we've got, but to all intents and purposes, it will be just like working locally. So it does take a little bit of time just to sort of upload that. Obviously, it does depend on your internet. I've got 3 devices all running through my internet connection on my machine at the moment with the virtual machine, etc. So there we go. That's now uploaded. If I go back to the virtual machine, and we can go into here, I could go File Now, Open. And when you go to open it, so for Chris to open it, he's going to browse to his A360 drive. And when I click on here, it will now show me any projects that Chris has got access to. Here's our test for A360. And there is the file that I have just uploaded. So I can now click on there, and it's going to launch this project. I've got another icon down here at the bottom, and this is actually the Communicator. Yeah. So this is the Communicator that we're actually using. that will link to whichever the active project is. So at the moment the active project is one that's already going, and we'll come back to this in a second. It basically means Chris will now download this file. It will create a local copy on his machine, just like you would expect to see elsewhere as well. So that's not how you would set up a project from scratch. I actually do have a project already open, so I'm going to go back to this one that's we've already started to do some work on. So as I'm working through, I can start to make changes. So I could have a look at this wall. Okay, it gives me the same work sharing option. I might want to change that just to 3 meters. Okay, so I'll make that change. If I just go back to the machine that Chris is on, let's just again go back to the correct project. This wall has been moved. I'm going to try and move it as well. So I want that 3 meters. We've both tried to make the same change. And what it will do is it will actually come back and tell me that it can't, because I'm actually currently accessing this. So even the monitoring and being able to send requests for items is still working exactly the same as what we would if we were local. This machine, this virtual machine I've got here, this virtual machine could be anywhere in the world, and this system will actually work. So there's very little setup to get this working. Okay. So I can carry on working. I could send a request now, but what I could also do is if I say place a request, so I've placed a request to Simon because he's doing that. But what I could also then do is I could put a request from Chris now. So Simon, have you already moved this wall? Straight away it's popped up on my machine that one, I've now got an editing request. I can also look at my messenger to find out what's going on. It will update in a second to tell me that what's going on. Okay, so we can start to have a look at communication through the actual communicator, and also sending these requests. So these requests are coming through the internet. So I can say no, I'm going to deny that, and it hasn't for whatever reason updated me with my message from Chris yet, even though that should have done. I'm not sure why we've got a little slight delay and lag on our internet. But I could tell Chris, yeah, forget it, we're already working, it's fine. Yeah, so it's probably actually, I think I'm working on the not running the right project. There we go, Synchrony Central from that test. So this is currently showing me the activity that's going on that project as well. Okay, so there's our chat for the 2 different, there we go. So there's my project. It's now updated. Simon, have you already moved that wall? Yes. Sorry, forgot to tell you. Yeah. So we've got this now nice way of communicating the change that's going on. So it's all working out there on the internet. Now, the other thing that we can then do is I can start then to look at managing the models. So notice that my show history and my restore backups are grayed out. Now, historically, that's going to be the way that you would recover problems, recover the file, look at version numbers. If I just synchronize my changes, so that wall's moved, so I could put moved wall. Yeah. So we'll put our changes up there. But one thing that's slightly different is we actually manage the models in the cloud. Now, I mentioned in the PowerPoint, but we can also, anyone that's using A360 on an iPad can access this design data, but they can only access that design data once you want them to. So what we have is we actually have views for A360, and this is now the key. So what I can now do is I can actually change which views are actually out there. This could be my drawing sheets. So if I just created, let's just create a new sheet, and in that I just create, maybe let's have my elevations in there. It's not a very appealing drawing. Okay, so I've now got that sheet. Back to my collaborate. Yeah, I'm just going to do a synchronize with central again, just so that sheets now added in there. But I can then start to look at which views I want to be available to the people that are using the A360 services, such as just standard A360 browser. So I can come into here. We can create drawing sheets in here, so I could create a new set. We can start to look at any other views that are in there. Yeah, we can also preview that. In this case, I'm actually just going to save that. It's still synchronizing the sheets, so the sheets are not actually listed at the moment. But I could create a new set. We can now publish that. It does take a little bit of time to actually publish. In the meantime, what I could do is, if I just log on to my iPad, so into the A360 stuff, so if I just show you my screen. So here's my iPad. This is the A360. If you have had a A360 on before and you try and open it, it might tell you you need to upgrade. There is a new version of the A360 tool out there now. And you'll notice that I've got all my projects in there, so I can go to my A360 collaboration. Again, you would need to invite people to this, and I can actually click on the Revit model, and it will actually open up my model. So this is just one of the elevation views, but I can actually gain access to everything, including the 3D model as well. So this is that 3D model. I can start to navigate around it. I can start to interrogate it. I can select objects. I can look at the properties of that object. You'll notice it'll give me all the object properties in there. Its unconnected height, its length, etc. Everything down to the area. So there's a lot of information that's automatically available. But this file only ever gets updated when I decide to republish the drawings. Okay, so as soon as I decide to republish, that's when it's going to update this as well. So there's quite a few tools for navigating around. We've even got the ability as well to create a static view in here. Yeah, and I can start to put that's the wrong wall type. Please check. So I can now start to put text on there, get the information in. And I can post that, and again that's posting via the Communicator, so we can start to look at that. So that will post that now to this project. If I navigate around, I can always go back in at any point. It will zoom in and it will put the red lining back on there. So a really useful little tool, the fact that this whole project is fetching this information together. The fact that the comments have been made on this model and we're able to manage and monitor all this information in a single environment means that we're not going out to site maybe and updating a drawing with pencil or pen, fetching it back, getting someone to redo the work again. We've got the information directly going back to the office. So really, really powerful functionality. Just turn the iPad off a second. Right, so back to here. So that then can be published out, saved, etc. So we're now working in a fully collaborative environment between my machine and other people that are actually in there. And as you can see there, my comments turned up there as well. So it might be as well that whilst we're actually working on here, okay, so it's telling me that I want to actually communicate some other information. So I might have noticed something. So Chris has noticed that this door's maybe not the door that we want. So within here as well, I've got other tools. So I can export my history. I can send a file. So this could be even another file completely. It doesn't even need to be a Revit file. I can browse. I could send maybe a text document. Maybe there's a PDF document about a particular piece of equipment that's in there. But what I might also want to do, I might just want to capture the screen. So I just want to capture that area. And we can capture that, and it'll actually give me the ability. Let me just maximize that. Unfortunately, my screen's a little bit small on here. It will allow me in the Communicator, there we go, to publish that, and I could put, please check this door. Okay, and we've got even more information, so we can really start to communicate. Okay, so as I mentioned that before, I do have a video of an example project. It's an American project, so I apologise about it being feet and inches. It'll give you a good idea, based on what I've already shown you, but how you can actually use A360 collaboration for Revit across discipline. So let's have a look at that.
Hello everyone, I'm Phil Lindsay, Senior Sales Enablement Manager here at Autodesk. And today, I'd like to walk you through a demonstration of Autodesk 360 collaboration for Revit. But before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to give everyone an overview of the project that our design team will be working in for this presentation. It's a medical facility where the project is comprised of architectural, structural, and 3D models that have been created by 3 different firms. Our architectural team is comprised of Greg Rodriguez and Paul Sanderson. Mindy Patel's firm is contributing the structural design. And last but not least, Paula White's firm is contributing the MEP design. And at the end of the design segment of this presentation, Hans Close will highlight some of the Autodesk 360 collaboration for Revit review capabilities that he specifically enjoys. Now, pay attention to the color coding that is associated with each team member. It's being used to show who's currently working within the project. And despite the fact that all 3 companies are located in different parts of the country, we'll be able to demonstrate how Autodesk 360 collaboration for Revit will enable them all to collaborate and communicate project updates in real time. So let's begin with the scenario that shows how a simple change to the architectural model can create a chain reaction of sorts that impacts the other disciplines. And as each project member reacts to that change, you'll be able to see how Autodesk 360 collaboration for Revit gives them all the ability to do so quickly and easily, ensuring that all of the team members are working as efficiently as possible. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg, our primary architect on this project.
Hello everyone, I'm Greg. Everything that I'll be doing in this demonstration will be highlighted by an orange border around my workspace. In this scenario, I've just received an email from the principal designer that the square footage in rooms 1201 and 1301 need to be increased. Before I make the change, I can alert the whole team via the Communicator tool. This tool is great because it offers team chat capabilities within the Revit environment. As I begin to make the requested modifications, I notice that my colleague Paul is in the same architectural model and currently owns the walls that I wish to move. Paul and I are in the same office, but rather than send him an email or walk down to his cubicle to request access, I'll just send him a request and a quick note via the Communicator tool. Paul, did you get my request?
Indeed, I did, Greg. For everyone in the audience, all of my actions will be highlighted by the green border in my workspace. Greg, I see your request and I'll grant you access to those walls. I'll also reply via Communicator tool to confirm that you have access as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Paul. I see that the request has been granted and will finalize the request to modify the rooms by moving these specific walls over 2 feet. With these changes, I'll update the architectural model so that my other teammates can see that it's been updated. I'll also capture a screenshot and send it via the Communicator tool so that everyone on the project can see the specific change. Mindy, as a structural engineer who's leveraging the architectural model for your design, I'm sure this modification will have an impact on you as well.
Indeed it does, Craig. Hello everyone, I'm Mindy, the structural engineer. My firm is on the other side of town, but A360 Collaboration for Revit gives me complete project access no matter where I am. Before I begin, I want to point out to everyone that all my actions are being illustrated by the light blue border around my workspace. Greg, I see your note, and I also notice that the architectural model is being synchronized. I'm going to reload the latest architectural model by going to my Manage Links option. While I'm waiting for the link to update, I can see the screen capture of your changes. Luckily, this change won't require a complete rework on my structural design. I can update my structural model to accommodate this change rather easily by simply moving a few columns and beams. To modify the location of the columns, I'll simply move column grid 11 over 2 feet. I'll also need to adjust the beams that are connected to these columns. I'll have to do this twice to account for both level views of the roof. With the changes in place, I'll do a quick review of the update in 3D to make sure everything is accurate. Everything looks good. I'll just notify the team of my update via the Communicator tool before I synchronize my model updates, complete with a brief description of my specific model changes. I should also point out that all of the activity associated with this project, including model syncs and comments, is being captured in the Project tab, which acts like an archive and keeps everyone updated. Now I'm going to turn it over to Paula, our MEP engineer. I'm sure that you'll like to weigh in on these project changes.
Hello everyone, I'm Paula White. My firm is contributing the MEP design to this project. Like the other project members, all of my on-screen actions are color-coded. My border color is purple. I see both Greg's and Mindy's communication of their model changes via the Communicator tool. I'll just respond that I'll check to see how their changes may impact my MEP design. I'll just wait a moment for both models to synchronize by going to the Project Activity tab. As soon as the updates are done, I'll reload the latest updates. Once the update is complete, Revit notifies me that a coordination review is necessary. So I'll go to the ceiling plan view to adjust the diffusers and light fixtures to match the room change. I can move the diffusers to optimize the airflow through the room and move the lighting for better illumination. Once this is done, I can go to the HVAC plan to determine if relocating the diffusers and light fixtures have caused any clashes with the building system. After completing the review for interferences, I see that no clashes have been created as a result of my update. Now, I can save my changes and sync to Central. As I do so, I'll add a comment to help all project team members know what changes I made to the MEP model. Now that I have notified the team, using the Communicator tool, I can head home for the weekend.
Thanks, Paula. Hello everyone, I'm Hans Klose, the principal of the architectural firm. When I initially asked Greg and Paul to adjust the size of the rooms in the architectural model, I knew that the changes would need to be communicated for the other teams that were leveraging the model of their work. As you just saw, Autodesk 360 Collaboration for Revit is a great tool for project collaboration. It ensured that everyone had access to the latest models, whether they were within my firm or members of the extended design team in the other firms. That ability is great, but as the principal of my firm, I especially like its ability to allow me to track updates via my mobile device. As you can see, here is my initial request to adjust the size of the rooms. Now that I know that all of the updates have been modeled, I can look at the model on my mobile device in 3D. I have full access. I can rotate, pan, and zoom. I can also look at all of the sheets associated with this project. This mobile access is perfect for me because I'm rarely in the office. With Autodesk 360 Collaboration for Revit, project access and updates are available to me whenever and wherever I need it.
So as you can see from that, you know, there's a live project, and it works quite well in the way that we can actually communicate across a multidiscipline project. But as I mentioned before, it's also a very good tool for working across multiple offices within the same organisation as well. Okay, I know there's a few questions, and I'll answer these just as we get to the end. Just to move on to the final slide. So just to summarise, so Autodesk Collaboration for Revit, it is a cloud subscription service that works with the Revit software, so you do need Revit for it to work for this part of it anyway. And as I mentioned, it gives you access to the A360 Team tools as well. There's a lot of BIM and A360 products out there now, so do look into them. We've got webinars on most of them, so if you're interested in BIM 360 Glue, BIM 360 Docs, BIM 360 Layout, have a look on our website and there's information about that as well. If you're actually interested in purchasing this as well, please do get in touch with your salesperson here at Graitec, or if you haven't got a salesperson, please just email sales@graitec.co.uk and we'll be happy to help you out on there. Okay, so few questions. When synchronizing, do we have to wait for the whole file to upload every time? No, not at all. So it works in the same way that work sharing works. So what it's actually uploading when you synchronize is it's only actually updating the changes. So the first time you save it, you'll notice it's a lot longer than every time. Obviously, if you've done an awful lot of work between saves, yes, it's going to be a little bit slow on that one, but it is only synchronizing each part of the time. So the service, I will actually need to double check, Daniel, just to find out when it's going to be available over in Kazakhstan. It does link to the nearest server anyway, so there's no reason why you couldn't actually link it directly to one of the American servers for location-wise. Changing the permissions inside A360. So basically this comes under roles and responsibilities. So within the A360 tool, when we actually invite members, we can actually start to look at the project itself. So if I go into the project, and then we can start to look at the roles and responsibilities within inside that project. So we actually have the ability to look at the users and change what their role is. So we can view and manage the members. I'll just move my help windows out of the way, and then we can change whether they're members or admin. If you go backwards as well, we can also get, this is a project, so you have to be a member. If we were just looking at people that weren't actually on the project, these were just maybe a user, then we can change it to contributor. So there's three levels basically. You have a contributor, which can basically access A360, a member that can actually work collaboratively inside Revit, then obviously the admin level, which is going to give that person the ability to add and remove permissions from other users as well. Other question, can Revit files be stored in 360 and worked on in 360? Currently use Dropbox, can we replace with 360? Absolutely. The A360, if you're on subscription with your Autodesk product, you actually get quite a lot of storage by default anyway. I think the current allowance is 25 gig of space that most of each user is actually granted on there. The A360 app on the iPad doesn't just link to A360 for storage. We can actually link that to, if I just pull it up on my iPad, so we can actually link that to the iCloud Drive. We can also link it to Dropbox, OneDrive, Box if it's installed. So there's other file storage systems that you can actually link in there as well. So let's have a look, see what else we've got. The licenses over, can the models be downloaded from the cloud? Yes, absolutely. So you can actually then choose to download that through A360 as a standalone model. As I mentioned before as well, we've also got the ability within Revit, I think I was just updating at the time when I was about to show you, to actually go manage our A360 models from within inside Revit, and we can then start to look at when this syncs up. So we can go into our project, and then if I hover over here, look, we can actually publish the latest, and under the actions we can view versions, so we can restore back. As I mentioned, from the main A360 app, you can then download that and have it as a standalone license as well. You have a template currently set up for work sharing locally, full set of work sets, not a problem. You can just start a project, you can publish it to A360, shouldn't be an issue with the work sets. So if you start a model that's not on the cloud, you can change that afterwards, I do believe, so we can then change where the model's actually stored, so you can change that. Okay, so thanks ever so much for joining me this morning. If anyone's got any other questions that I haven't answered, I do get a list of all the attendees, and on there's always a list of any questions that you've got. So hopefully that's been a really good insight into what A360 collaboration can actually do. Enjoy the rest of your day. I have actually got another webinar at 2 o'clock this afternoon on AutoCAD 360, which is a mobile app that runs on mobile devices. If you want to see that, go to our website and you can sign up for that as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.